But it's definitely confession time. And don't forget, if you do ever forget or miss a confession, if you go via the app, there is the daily Simon Mayo Confessions podcast daily. Is that right?
It's the Simon Mayo's Daily Confession podcast.
So easy, really.
You can rearrange those words and it still makes sense.
Yeah.
That's where you go. Anyway, in case you want to catch up on any of them, they're all there. All via the app. Today's comes from... is this PG? Well, I don't know if this is PG. It's a little... If you're having your tea, I suppose. There's a little bit of a moment in this. Tonight's confession comes from Shane. Shane, thank you, Father Simon and the brothers and sisters of mercy. The time has come for me to beg forgiveness for my most heinous act. Though, to be honest, I'm not hopeful. Matt, yes, everyone else, no.
Okay.
My youngest son loves swimming. He's very good, and he swims for the local team. This is a source, as you can imagine, of considerable pride for us, and a big deal for him. We go to all the various galas, and have become used to taking a packed lunch to avoid paying those famously extortionate leisure centre prices.
Oh, yes.
An awful lot of money for a very poor salad, or a stale baguette, or a cold, disappointing pasty. Yes, I'm tight, but don't judge me on that, says Shane. Well, I decided to make my own vegetarian, again, no judgment, please, Matt. I decided to make my own vegetarian sausage rolls.
Oh, dear.
To take to one particularly long gala to avoid the nightmare of a soggy sandwich. Vegetarian sausage rolls get a very bad press, but mine were homemade. However, imagine spending all that time making vegetarian sausage rolls and for them to be totally rubbish. They really, really weren't great. They didn't look great. They tasted worse. Still, it was all I had at the time, so I ploughed on and I tried to eat them.
Ugh.
After much complaining from me, my wife said, "They can't be that bad, let me try one." So I threw her one to the poolside seat where she was sitting, so that she could be the full-on helicopter parent that she is. I get the picture of Shane just
not
sitting
being
in the
anywhere
seat,
near.
look at his phone,
Yeah.
and Shane's other half
Actually,
right by the poolside,
yeah,
taking
watching what she's supposed to be doing, yeah.
Anyway, well, I threw the vegetarian sausage roll. In actual fact, I completely messed up the throw, and it went quite literally flying over her head by a good 5 feet and landed plop in the pool.
Oh, dear.
Plop being the operative word because my homemade vegetarian sausage meat filling was now without the pastry that had seemingly dissolved in the water. And it looked like the kind of sausage that really should be, sent to the seaside, if you get my drift.
Yes.
The kind that water companies enjoy releasing when they really shouldn't. And off it floated, and to my eternal shame, Father Simon, I stayed silent. Even when the murmurs turned to shouts and then to shrieks, I remained silent. The children were evacuated from the pool. The entire gala was eventually cancelled, and the pool closed for 24 hours for a deep clean. So you see, it really wasn't deliberate. I never meant to cause all this upset and anguish, but I do seek forgiveness. From all the kids who missed out on competing, for the brave member of staff tasked with going fishing for something nobody want to have a look at, really, certainly not catch. From my son's team who lost the league that year by 1 point. No. They were winning easily, and that day, well, out of courtesy, they agreed to a draw, and that was that. Most of all, I seek forgiveness from the 6 kids that were in the pool competing at the time of the incident, who remained under suspicion for many months afterwards because they happened to be in the pool at the time of their 200-metre backstroke race when I chucked in the sausage, as it were. I've carried this guilt for over 10 years. I hope you can please release me of my burden, but I'm really not very hopeful. No, I'm not at all surprised, actually, really, because it would have been a straightforward thing to say, ever so sorry, that's my sausage roll, and then your other half, who was actually poolside, could have hoiked it out. But no. Suspicion is on the other 6 kids, and the tournament was abandoned. Sister Holly is looking very fierce.
Yeah, as you say, really, really not good. Think about all of that time and effort of that deep clean that they had to do. That poor person that had to fish it out. It's just really quite disgusting and gross. The children be probably blamed, frankly, for this, when he could have just said, yeah, that's my sausage roll. He should have just said it, and he didn't. So no forgiveness here.
Okay, brother from another...
I mean, you have to wonder about these kids who are being blamed for leaving what it looked like floating in the pool. If they're doing 200-metre backstroke, they're unlikely to be able to do that, really, aren't they? I would normally be saying to this, not forgiven, because everyone loses out here, don't they? Because, you know, the kids miss out, and those kids got blamed, and they had to cancel the gala. However, my suspicion is that Shane won't be trying vegetarian sausage roll again. So that's got to be a good thing, because that seems to be the food of the devil. So I am going to forgive, because no more vegetarian sausage roll.
Right, so it's a pro-meat thing as far as you're concerned.
Absolutely. Here's to
Right.
meat.
What a surprise. Matt forgives, Holly doesn't. It's the people's verdict, though. Do you forgive Shane, please, for this astonishing story from the swimming pool? On the text 61054, first word is Simon. 11 minutes after 6. Just before the news, we had a confession from young Shane. Names changed, obviously, and a story from a swimming gala, because his youngest son loves swimming. But Shane likes making vegetarian sausage rolls, and he threw a sausage roll to his wife, who was poolside, missed. The sausage roll ends up in the pool, and everyone confuses the sausage for something else. Children are evacuated, the gala is cancelled, and the pool is closed for 24 hours of a deep clean. Plus, 6 kids in the pool get the blame. The people's verdict is in. Here it comes.
So not forgiven, says Dave. I worked at a prominent North London pool and leisure centre back in the 70s and 80s as a lifeguard. This was a common occurrence back then, and lifeguards used to flick a coin to see who would go and fish it out. Sue says, absolutely forgiven on the basis that it made me laugh so much I had to pull the car over to control my hysterics.
Oh dear.
And Deb's, trucking in the fen, says, a cowardly, stingy vegetarian who's a rubbish cook and a worse throw. Give him a break, he's got enough problems already.
I see a little bit of satire. Leisure centre confessions, swimming pool confessions, helicopter parenting confessions. What have you got for us? Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Today's confession, I suppose it's a PG, involves a dead animal. But it's okay. But you don't need to be worried. Unless you're the animal, in which case it's too late. Gloria says, this comes from Gloria.
Yeah.
Gloria says, Father Simon and the collective, this confession I have for you started in the noughties, in the 2000s, when I was at home from university for the weekend. Times of a carefree student, really, who knew nothing of mortgages, childcare costs, and the ever-increasing cost of living. These were the good old days. It was a Saturday, and in true teenager fashion, I was having a lie-in, which now, having a 3- and 5-year-old, is a distant memory. In a daze, I was woken by my parents' next-door neighbour, who was a doctor. She frantically told me that they had been told there was a dead tortoiseshell cat a few metres from the main road in front of the house. At that time, we had 2 cats. One called Loki, who was ginger, and Sasha, who matched the description of the tortoiseshell cat. Neither of my parents were in, and my older sister, whose cat it actually was off somewhere with her boyfriend called Siegfried. Not
Is that necessary?
It's not. It's incidental. Not knowing what to do, I scrambled outside in my pajamas, nightgown and wellies in search of Sasha. As I approached the cat, I burst into tears, which did look a little concerning for oncoming traffic. I didn't know what to do. I needed a box. Something, anything. So I went back to the house and I found a box that my university printer had come in. Proceeding to return to Sasha, I scooped the very stiff cat into the box and returned once again to the house, tears streaming down my cheeks. The doctor next door, the neighbour, appeared again, looking into the box in her thick Scottish accent.
Oh, excellent. Here we go, everyone.
She said,
yep.
That doesn't look like Sasha.
No, I don't think so.
As I peered into the box, she was right, and then I heard a meow. And lo and behold, rubbing my leg and chirping a hello was Sasha. I told you so, said the doctor in her Scottish accent.
Yes.
You just add that yourself.
Oh, I see. Is that right?
I'm not going to patronise anyone.
No.
Well. Great, I thought. I got up early and I've got a dead stiff cat in a printer box. Although on the plus side, your cat was still alive. But, if you're determined to be miserable about it, what to do, I thought. Well, my older sister appeared. She can help. She suggested digging a hole to bury the cat, asking her boyfriend to do so as it was nearly winter and the soil was frozen over. To our disappointment, he refused. What a hopeless choice he was. So my eldest sister, in all her wisdom, suggested tipping the cat into the top field, as we lived in the countryside, quoting the circle of life, and how it would return to the earth and be potential food for local foxes and badgers. This was the way of things, Father Simon. Nature red in tooth and claw. Feeble townies may wince and whine, but this is the way. A Mandalorian reference for no reason. When the Mandalorian says this is the way, it's not about burying cats in fields. At this point, I felt emotionally drained, so agreed and just wanted to get back to university where no one had a pet, apart from Mary, who had some fish in a bowl, but where no one had any cares in the world. Unfortunately, my bubble was burst a week later when my mum calls up, angry and confused. A lady from the village had sent her a big bunch of flowers to say thank you for burying her beloved pet. I explained in a panic, quoting the circle of life, that no burial had actually taken place. My mother said quoting an Elton John song was no suitable excuse for not doing the right thing. Saturday night was not all right for fighting.
No.
The rocket man, who was as high as a kite, was not okay to be in charge of machinery. And no, you can't kiss someone else's bride.
No.
Her message was clear. She was very cross. And she knew about Elton John.
She did, clearly.
My mum quite rightly expressed her disappointment and through the guilt corrected my wrong and retrieved the cat and gave it a proper burial. I asked forgiveness to not only the owner of the deceased cat, but my mum, who I let down by not performing the proper burial of the cat, but also to the dear cat whom I carried in a printer box. I only hope that the cat is now at peace. It's a little late for you to be concerned about the cat, I think, when really you were just upset because you had a dead cat in a printer box. And also your sister was going out with a useless boyfriend. Anyway, Sister Holly, what do you say?
Well, I think this cat had a loving family around it and it deserved a better burial. I know you can quote the whole circle of life thing, but I think they probably would have wanted a proper burial for it and a proper nice sort of ceremony, maybe some hymns or something. That's what they wanted.
You do sing hymns for cats?
I think you do. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think that's what they needed. So yeah, not forgiving here, no.
So what you're saying is chucking it over the fence is not quite good enough.
Not enough, no.
What about if you placed it in the field and sang a hymn? Would that have been okay?
No, I think it needs to be buried, and Siegfried not digging up the dirt as well. That was disappointing.
What a disappointment
Really?
Siegfried was. Brother from another guy.
It seems to me Tiddles has got two choices. Either you can be
Sasha, do you mean?
No, the cat that's dead.
Oh,
It
the
wasn't
dead
Sasha,
one.
was it?
Unnamed.
Yeah, unnamed, yeah, but we're calling it Tiddles. It can either be left by the side of the street, or it can go back to nature in the field. And I think it probably, if it had the choice, and we're here today, it would say, put me in the field in the printer box, because that's very much gently with a hymn. And so no one's to blame now, apart from Siegfried, who clearly can't deal with a spade in the middle of winter. Come on, man up, Siegfried, or the cold.
Useless
What's wrong
boyfriend.
with you? Certainly, cats, why they call it the blues, I think. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
People's verdict, please. Oh my goodness me. 61054. Do you forgive Gloria and Siegfried? Before the news, Gloria offered us her confession for today. Her cats were okay, but Tiddles, as named by Matt, wasn't. And it was a tale of funerals, disappointing German boyfriends, and Elton John songs.
Yeah.
The circle of life, and so on. People's verdict came in like this.
So Simon in rainy Huddersfield says, forgiven. I agree with Matt. Clearly nothing to forgive. She could have left the cat at the side of the road. If anyone should be begging for forgiveness, it's the useless boyfriend. Jane says, my daughter once got her dead cat back in a pizza box. I certainly forgive this. And Tony says, forgiven. Gloria was just trying to do her best to give the poor little kitty a good send-off. What you can't forgive is Matt's terrible Elton John puns.
Yes, that's very true, actually.
So true.
Nicely done. So your confession, please. We'll exchange it for a smart speaker. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Now the sound of 1740. I can't remember. I need to check.
Oh, right.
album known as Adagio.
When it came out.
When it was a hot rocking track
Yes.
for the first time.
Huge.
It's confession time. The collective is gathered. Tommy sends in today's tale. Simon, Matt, Susie, and the whole of the collective for confessional forgiveness. Greatest Hits Radio listeners, maybe jumping at the gun. My confession is on, but sorry, you're Susie, by the way.
Yeah,
Can you
cool.
be Susie for today?
It's cool.
My confession is on behalf of a group of lads and ladies. Stay tuned to find out what happened to them at the end of the confession. This burden has lain upon our shoulders for nigh on 40 years, and it needs to be exorcised. Start of our first year in senior school, the lads and ladies in question gravitated towards each other through common likes and dislikes. Our evenings quickly became gatherings over the school field for footy, music, chips, cider, smoking, don't try that at home,
No.
and the potential for a girlfriend, boyfriend and lifetime friendships were formed from there on in. In our particular senior school in the first year, several personality types became clear and established. The one that concerns our confession is, let's call him David Watts, as in the song by the Kinks and then later by the Jam. David had moved from another senior school for some reason. Just like his namesake, David was good at everything. He excelled at all things academic and the teachers loved him to bits. It was in the particular subject of sport that the lunatic PE teachers, them again, we had to endure. They took the adoration of David to new heights. You name it, he could do it, and was inevitably picked as captain in football, cricket, basketball, athletics, swimming, tennis. You get the picture.
Goodness.
But there was a dark side to David. One of his cheaper side swipes was to bully overweight kids during PE or sneering at pupils who lacked confidence when called upon to answer questions out loud in class. Anything he did that may have cast a shadow over him was done, however, out of sight and out of hearing of the staff. Nothing could tarnish the reputation of our David. In our final year, some classes and groups were given the chance to join a cruise around the Mediterranean, doubtless on the SS Uganda. Very nice.
Yes.
Stopping off in some fantastic places, and at the top of this particular history trip destination was Egypt. Now, a friend of ours didn't have the opportunity to go on this trip, but his girlfriend did, and so did our David. Now, our mate and David didn't get on. That is to say, they hated the sight of each other. During the time the group were away on the cruise, various rumours began to circulate back at school about David's conduct. One rumour was that our mate's girlfriend had become a target for David's attention. On the first day back for the history group cruises, PG certificate, by the way,
Oh, right, that's pretty late.
David strode somewhat arrogantly into our registration class. He stopped by our mate's desk and, reaching into his briefcase,
Briefcase.
Ooh.
yes, he had a briefcase,
No.
pulled something out and dropped a pair of ladies' undergarments thereon.
Oh.
There was uproar and David made his way to the front of the class and sat with the smuggest grin one can imagine. He was a hateful specimen. You're getting the picture.
Yeah, I think we are.
David's parents, surprisingly, were always bragging about their newly self-renovated house, moving to the area from a better part of the country and being a positive influence on lesser mortals and neighbours around them.
Oh, boy.
So, bearing all this in mind, we came up with a plan. We would help them in the next stage of their renovations. And one lunchtime, we congregated at a friend's house at the same time. This guy was the only one of our friends with a house telephone. And during that brief time, we managed so much. We inadvertently rung several local builders' merchants who had arranged delivery for the following morning for a couple of large skips, enough sand to make David feel right back at home in Egypt, as many slabs as it would take to floor Wembley Stadium, and enough bricks, roof tiles and sand to cement and build a decent-sized housing estate. One of our girlfriends at school who lived nearby to David said there was absolute uproar at 7 a.m. that morning, with some stuff being dropped off without alerting anyone inside the house. This may or may not have been a condition of one of the deliveries. The police got involved, but nothing was taken further than a vigorous telling off. Different times, but be in no doubt, Father Simon, that our parents made sure we knew where we stood. We would like to beg forgiveness from the police for taking up their time, to the building supply companies who duly delivered on time, as requested, or tried to, all of the goods that had later to be taken back to their depots, to the drivers of the trucks who had to sit and wait their turn to reload their vehicles, although hopefully they claimed the overtime, also to David's parents who had the unfortunate task of trying to decipher the reason why their driveway looked like the preparation for the construction of Milton Keynes. To David, we hope you turned out all right in the end, which is a very generous...
No, we don't.
The secrecy concerning our confession is due to various members of the group who made these calls and their place in society now. Amongst the lads and ladies are a scientist, one is a phlebotomist who worked non-stop during the pandemic, a couple are successful builders and contributors to their local community. One is a bank manager, one is a vicar, another one is a preacher, oh the irony, one is a journalist and one is a member of the House of Lords.
Oh, really? Oh,
How about that? It's a very good. Kindest regards to all from Tommy. Well, to be honest, we have these stories every now and again, but this David Watts character sounded like such a particularly loathsome specimen that we thought we'd give this one an outing. But did Tommy handle this correctly? Sister Holly speaks.
I'm not so sure.
No.
Now, David Watts sounded like a dreadful, disgusting young man, and totally, obviously, really awful. However, I know David's family were bragging about the new house renovations, but did they really deserve that? Because ultimately, they were the ones who got punished, not David. I'm sure David didn't care about the building stuff turning up. You could have punished him, frankly, at school, and I think that would have been better. And so that is why I don't forgive.
Okay, brother from another gutter.
I mean, that's pretty well argued, isn't it? But I'm going to forgive because, a number of things. I mean, first of all, let's not forget that David's worst crime was having a briefcase at school.
Oh, no.
What on earth
No one
is
has a briefcase
that
at
about?
school. No.
Don't have a briefcase at school. But also, what's going on with these building supply firms? Are they not taking payment over the phone? Are they we're just going to rock up with our big skip and leave it there and not even ask where do you want the skip? We're just going to leave that and not take any payment. It feels like it's the system that's to blame. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, people's very pleased. A lot will depend on whether you're in the building industry, I suspect, or the House of Lords. 61054, first word is Simon. Do you forgive Tommy, yes or no? Today's confession. 61054, first word is Simon, for the people's verdict. However, the confession just before the news came from Tommy, and it was all concerning a bit of a cad, a guy who we called David Watts, because he was like the song, he was great at everything, apart from being a great human, and he was just horrible to people. And so a whole pile of sand and bricks and various things turned up at his parents' house. And this is all committed by some very eminent people, including one member of the House of Lords. Anyway, the people's verdict, here it comes.
So James says forgiven. What a disgusting young man David was. Tommy did the right thing. Lydia, driving home from work, says not forgiven for the same reason as Holly. Should have been David that was punished ruthlessly at school. He sounds vile.
He does.
I had such high hopes of him getting his comeuppance. D for effort and achievement. And Ruth finally says forgiven. I agree entirely with Matt.
Oh, yes.
If you take a briefcase to school, frankly, you deserve everything coming at you.
Briefcase, is there any mileage in briefcase confession?
Briefcase, wow.
Only from spies, probably.
Pretty niche.
Yes, I suppose so. Anyway, if you have something for us, confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Okay, so it's confession time. Very good. Thank you for all the confessions you've been sending in. If we use yours, you get a smart speaker. You send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. And if you miss any, you go on the website, you go on the app, and you can look for our podcast, which is a daily thing. And it turns up, it's got my name on it, and it says confessions as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it says. Today's comes from Ben. Not his real name. Dear Cardinal Simon, the very wise Matt, and the forever forgiving Sister Susie. Okay, it's fine. Paying attention, careful attention.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I was down our local boozer and between work contracts. In other words, I was on the dole. To paint the full picture, the bar served snacks in house bricks. Either full of good old-fashioned Bombay mix or out-of-date crisps. So, as you can tell, it's a real quality public house. Anyway, just as I was minding my own business, these two businessmen came in wearing blue spray-on jeans with turn-ups above the ankle, white socks and brown shoes, with, as I remember, pink shirts with short sleeves. Definitely posh, as they were smoking Rothmans. Don't try this at home,
No.
kids. That obviously dates it, right?
Yeah.
So we're smoking in the pub. They went straight to the bar, nudging the brick-based pub cuisine aside, and they ordered 2 pints of Holston, thus proving that they were posh.
Yeah.
They sat at a table within earshot, and they were not quiet talkers.
Oh, dear.
So I caught most of the conversation. One of them was in the shipping and logistic business, and had just imported a large quantity of wire on drums, which had some unwanted paint on them. That's unwanted paint on the wire, not the drums. Anyway, they wanted a couple of cash-in-hand workers for a couple of days to do a clean-up job. Well, me being between work contracts, I was in there quicker than a rat up the drainpipe. Excuse me, gents, I said, because I come from that part.
Yeah, I might.
Couldn't help but overhear you were, looking for a couple of reliable, sensible workers. And after a bit of back and forth on pay and particulars, turned out they were looking for some experienced steam cleaners to work on a jetty. So after inflating and overstating my previous experience in the steam cleaning industry, I volunteered myself and my best buddy, who was also between contracts, for the job. We were to report for work at the jetty, 8 o'clock the following morning. We arrived early to get set up and take a first look at what an industrial jet washer looked like, because we actually hadn't seen one before. It was a good job we arrived early, because we tried everything to get the blooming thing started for 45 minutes before we found the power isolation switch. It was the big red dial with the word isolation on it.
Yeah, that'll be the one.
It fired up, and blimey Charlie, that thing was powerful. The type of jet washer that took 2 hands to keep control of. You could do riot control with this thing. Anyway, we switched it off and waited for the boss to show up, ready for us to prove that we were experienced, competent users. He turned up at 8 on the dot in a brand new flashy white Volvo, top of the range estate version. He showed us which drums needed cleaning, told us it needed to be done sharpish, and he sped off in the Volvo, leaving us to get on with it. For those with little to no experience of industrial jet washing, let me tell you, it's back-breaking work. You get very wet, very cold, and very miserable after 8 hours. But you do what you do for cash in hand. It wasn't long before the boss was back to check on our progress, predictably moaning about how little we got done and telling us to get a shift on. He headed into the office, throwing me the keys to the Volvo and telling me to give it a blast so his car would be gleaming by the time he was back. Having failed to impress on cleaning the drums at this point, I thought doing a really good job of cleaning the car might put us back in his good books. And this is where it all went a little bit pear-shaped. I walked up to the passenger side of the car and hit the trigger. Now, I don't know how used you guys are to the delicate art of industrial power washing. My guess is not very, although Matt sounds like he could be useful with a hose.
Okay.
But you have heat and power controls. Sorry, Holly.
Yes, obviously.
You have heat and power controls. I had them both up full, and this was a mistake. A car is not the same as a wire drum.
That's true.
A Volvo is not the same as a wire drum, and a Volvo car door is certainly not the same as a wire drum. And so it was that off came the dirt along with all of the paint in a Zorro Z-shape splash. We looked at each other in panic. We realised we, or perhaps just me, says Ben, was in deep doo-doo. This called for some quick thinking, and luckily there were some ground workers on site, so I swiped an aerosol of white paint used for line marking. I dried off the damaged area, quickly resprayed it with the aerosol. Not the best match, but I kicked a bit of dust into it, and it kind of blended in. By the time his lordship returned, the rest of the car was looking pretty good. I said, "Oi, governor," because it's that era.
Yeah, we are.
Smoking Rothmans and governor. Did you know your car is 2 different shades of white? He threw an absolute wobbler. Not at me, but he did thank me for doing a good job and spotting the car sprayers had done wrong. They had made a mistake and said he was going to go straight to the dealership and have a strong word. We finished our day, we got our money from the office, we stayed away from the local boozer for a while till things cooled off. But clearly I need forgiveness from the Volvo dealership and the sprayer, who must have copped it big time. But Father Simon, a little earner is a little earner. Thank you, team. Ben, not real name. Oh, and can I have a mug, please? No, you can't. You might get forgiveness. You get a smart speaker. So he made a mess of the boss's car. He lied about his qualifications. I'm expecting harsh words from Sister Holly.
Yeah, not really impressed, to be honest. Saying that you were an expert with the jet washer, and you weren't at all. And then the fact you lied and said, oh, actually, it's 2 different colours of white paint on his car. Those poor people at the Volvo dealership, what did they do to deserve this, frankly? And so for that reason, I'm not forgiving at all. Lies upon lies.
A big flashy Z on the car could have looked impressive, although it was just peeled paint, so therefore it looked a bit rubbish. Brother from another gutter.
I mean, how hard can it be to operate a pressure washer? Answer: very hard indeed. Clearly, because we had that problem with the Z all over the Volvo. Am I alone in thinking that they weren't contracted to do the car? They were really there to do the wire. So if your man decides, I want you to clean my car as well guess what, Sonny Jim? You're getting a big fat Z all over the side of your car, and caveat emptor, as I believe the Latins would say. So for that reason, I think I'm going to forgive.
All right. What do you feel about what Ben and his mate did? Please, 61054 on the text. First word is Simon. For the news, we had a confession from Ben involving industrial power cleaning and lying about his experience in that department, and then carving a fantastic Z into his boss's Volvo. What do we get here from the people's verdict? Here it comes.
Simon, in a less rainy Huddersfield, says, forgiven. I agree with Matt. Let the buyer beware. Maybe he shouldn't be so lazy and wash his own car. Nothing to forgive. Josh in Milton Keynes, forgiven. Who gives someone a job they've just met in the local pub? It's hardly surprising they did a bad job. And James says, I'm going to forgive because I had this exact same issue at home when I attempted to power wash clean my car. All was going swimmingly until the power wash caught a stone chip, and I experienced the same issue with paint flying off.
A confession I will remember for the line, we knew they were posh because they were smoking Rothmans.
Yes, so true.
Which made it a period piece, I think. If you have a confession, we would like to see it. If we use it, you get a smart speaker. You send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.